Tonight, let us travel back in time to a world both familiar and distant, where life moves slowly, yet ideas stir quietly beneath the surface. It is the year 1775, and along the eastern coast of North America stretch 13 colonies. The streets are cobblestone, the houses wooden, and the smell of fresh bread drifts softly from kitchens. Ships rest gently in the harbors, their sails furled, rocking with the gentle rhythm of the tide. At first glance, life seems ordinary. Children chase each other along quiet lanes. Farmers tend their animals, careful and steady in their work. Merchants open their shops and arrange wares. Bolts of cloth, jars of spices, tins of tea. Women move softly through their kitchens, stirring, kneading, and baking. And yet, beneath this calm, something is changing. Across the colonies, word travel on paper, whispered from hand to hand, from town to town. Newspapers and pamphlets urge reflection. Quiet conversations spark debates, questions of fairness, of authority, of what it truly means to be free. Imagine letters rolled carefully, sealed with wax, carried by foot or horseback through forest and field. Imagine neighbors speaking in hushed tones by candlelight, weighing ideas that could ripple far beyond their small towns. Tonight, we will walk softly through this world. We will follow ordinary people whose choices, conversations, and courage quietly shape the course of history. We will watch the beginnings of a revolution, not with the clash of swords or the roar of battle, but through small, deliberate acts of thought and resolve. So settle in, breathe slowly, and let your mind drift back to these quiet streets and gentle mornings. Let the world of 1775 unfold around you, soft and unhurried, as we begin our journey into the story of the American Revolution. The morning sun rises slowly over the colonies, casting long, soft shadows across the streets and fields. In small towns, wooden houses stand side by side, smoke curling gently from their chimneys. The air carries the faint aroma of baking bread, roasting meat, and the earthy scent of the surrounding forests. In a quiet kitchen, a woman stirs a pot of porridge, her movements steady and deliberate. She hums softly to herself, listening to the sound of children's laughter drifting from the yard. Outside, two young boys chase each other past a wooden fence, their feet kicking up soft clouds of dust as they run toward the town square. Merchants open their shops, arranging bolts of cloth, jars of spices, and tins of tea. The clink of coins mingles with the rustle of paper and fabric, while a rooster crows somewhere in the distance, announcing the beginning of the day. On the outskirts of town, farmers move slowly through their fields. They tend their crops with care, hands roughened by work but steady and skilled. Oxen pull plows through soft earth, and cows graze quietly under the shade of leafy trees. The rhythm of their labor is calm and unhurried, yet it sustains the colonies, providing food, warmth, and security. In taverns and small town halls, neighbors gather to discuss the world beyond their streets. Their voices are quiet, measured, carrying both concern and curiosity. They speak of taxes and duties imposed by a king far away, of ships bringing goods they cannot always afford, and of the subtle ways authority reaches across the ocean to touch their daily lives. Letters travel slowly but surely between towns and colonies. Some are carried by horse, bouncing along dirt roads through forests and fields. Others are passed by hand, delivered with care and a sense of urgency. These letters carry more than words. They carry ideas. Ideas about fairness, about rights, and about the possibility that life could be lived differently. Even in quiet homes, there are discussions held in soft tones. Fathers speak with their children about what it means to be a citizen. Mothers whisper to one another about the changing times. The questions are small, simple, almost imperceptible. Is it right to pay this tax? Should we follow these laws? But in these questions lies the seed of something larger, something that will grow slowly, steadily, into a movement that no one could yet fully imagine. The towns themselves seem to breathe with a gentle rhythm. Church bells toll softly, calling some to worship and others to reflection. Horses clip-clop on cobblestones, their hooves echoing in quiet courtyards. The wind rustles the leaves in the trees, carrying distant sounds of the countryside into the towns. Amid this calm, ordinary life, the colonies are already beginning to feel a connection, a shared sense of purpose. It is subtle, like the first light of dawn breaking over a darkened horizon. People may not yet understand it fully, but they're beginning to recognize that their fates are intertwined, that the choices they make, small, careful, deliberate, will matter. And so, life continues in the colonies. The ordinary acts of daily living, cooking, farming, teaching, trading, carry within them a quiet resilience. Every letter sent, every conversation held, every thoughtful decision made is a thread in the fabric of history. The world is calm, yet change is stirring quietly, inexorably, beneath the surface. As the sun climbs higher, casting warmth across the town square, the story of these ordinary people begins to unfold. They do not yet know the magnitude of what is to come. They do not yet know that they are standing at the threshold of a revolution. But the seeds are planted, the first steps taken, and the gentle hum of history is already in motion. As the days and months pass in the colonies, a quiet tension begins to settle over towns and villages. Life continues, bread is baked, fields are tended, children laugh and play, but there's a subtle undercurrent, a whisper in the wind, that things are changing. Across the colonies, word spreads of new taxes and laws imposed by a distant king. Papers arrive in the mail, read by candlelight in homes where families gather. No taxation without representation, someone whispers, repeating a phrase they have seen written in a pamphlet. Others nod quietly, understanding in their hearts that something is not quite right, though they cannot yet name it fully. In Boston, at the harbor, the calm water reflects the early morning light. Ships laden with tea sway gently, their colors muted by fog. A group of men gathers under the cover of darkness, moving carefully and deliberately, carrying boxes of tea from the ships and sending them into the harbor. There is no shouting, no chaos, only purpose, precision, and courage in a quiet act of defiance. This is the Boston Tea Party, though to the men themselves, it is simply a matter of principle, a small stand taken to defend what they believe is right. Letters and messages travel swiftly after the event, carried by horse and hand, spreading news of what has happened. Towns in the countryside stir with discussion. Some speak with excitement, others with concern, but all feel the growing pulse of change. In taverns, neighbors talk in low voices, debating the fairness of new taxes, the distant hand of authority, and the possibility that ordinary people might one day govern themselves. Even in homes far from the harbor, these ideas take root. Fathers and mothers discuss quietly with their children the meaning of fairness. Teachers and ministers pause in their daily routines to ponder the implications of distant decisions. Every whispered conversation, every thoughtful reflection adds to the quiet momentum building across the colonies. Along dusty roads and forest paths, riders carry letters filled with arguments, warnings, and hopes. Some letters are persuasive, urging calm and patience. Others are more urgent, calling for unity and action. The colonies, though separated by miles of forest and field, begin to feel connected by a shared sense of purpose. It is subtle at first, like the soft rustle of leaves before a breeze, but it grows steadily, reaching every corner of the settlements. The spark of rebellion is not a roar. It is not sudden or violent. It is careful, deliberate, and thoughtful. It lives in the everyday choices of ordinary people, deciding whether to speak up, to question, to act with integrity. It lives in the quiet courage of those who risk the disapproval of neighbors or the watchful eye of authority to do what they believe is right. And so, beneath the calm surface of colonial life, history begins to stir. The colonies are learning something important. That change is possible, that ideas have power, and that courage often comes in the quietest of forms. The spark is lit, and though it is small, it will grow, slowly, steadily, into a force that no one can ignore. The streets remain calm, the sun warms the wooden homes, and the smell of bread still drifts through the air. But now, the colonies are different. There is a sense of possibility, of potential, that was not there before. The first quiet steps toward revolution have been taken, and the story is beginning to move forward, guided by the careful, deliberate actions of those who dare to imagine a different future. As spring deepens, the colonies begin to feel a quiet urgency. Life continues in its daily rhythm. Farmers tend their fields, merchants open their shops, children chase each other through the streets, but beneath it all, a sense of anticipation hangs in the air. Something is coming, though no one yet knows exactly what form it will take. In open fields and small clearings, militiamen practice their drills. Their muskets are heavy in their hands, unfamiliar yet necessary. They move slowly, deliberately, learning the formations that might one day protect their homes. These men are not soldiers by trade, but by choice. They are neighbors, fathers, sons, and friends who have taken up a quiet duty to defend what they hold dear. Meanwhile, in kitchens and living rooms, families continue their routines. Mothers knead dough, carefully folding it over and over. Fathers tend the hearth, adjusting the coals to keep the fire steady. Children help as best they can, unaware of the tensions building beyond their windows. Even in these ordinary moments, there is resilience, an understanding that life must continue, even as the world changes around them. Letters and messages continue to flow between towns, carrying both hope and worry. They speak of unity, of shared purpose, of the delicate balance between patience and action. People read them by candlelight, turning the pages slowly, savoring each word, reflecting on the responsibilities of community and conscience. Then comes the day that marks a quiet turning point, April 1775. In the towns of Lexington and Concord, tension is tangible in the cool morning air. Militiamen stand in formation on the village green, their hearts beating with both fear and resolve. Across the field, soldiers of the British Army approach, their boots striking the ground in a steady rhythm. A shot rings out. It is unclear who fired first, and perhaps it does not matter. What matters is that ordinary people, facing extraordinary circumstances, take a stand. There is no chaos here, only courage. The courage to defend home, family, and principle. The sound of muskets echoes softly through the trees, startling birds into flight, shaking leaves from the branches. Yet even in this moment, life does not stop. Families watch from windows, villagers carry on, and the wind continues to stir the fields. The first skirmishes do not decide the course of the revolution, but they ignite a determination that will not be extinguished. Militiamen retreat strategically, regrouping, learning, preparing for what lies ahead. Across the colonies, news travels slowly but surely, carried by horse and foot, whispering of bravery and the rising possibility of self-determination. Even in the quiet moments, history is being made. A farmer pauses in his field to listen to the distant shots, then returns to his plowing, understanding that his work, too, is part of this unfolding story. A teacher writes notes by candlelight, pondering the lessons these events may teach future generations. Life and duty intertwine, each moment carrying weight beyond its surface. And so, the colonies stand at the edge of transformation. The calm days of early spring give way to an undercurrent of change, one that will ripple through towns and forests alike. People begin to recognize that courage does not always roar. Sometimes it moves quietly, steadily, in the decisions we make, the preparations we take, and the principles we choose to follow. In this gathering storm, life continues, but nothing is quite the same. The ordinary and the extraordinary exist side by side, each shaping the other, as the colonies move closer to a future defined by determination, hope, and the first quiet steps toward independence. The months pass, and the colonies continue to grapple with uncertainty and hope. The war has begun in small skirmishes, and yet life continues around the edges of this growing struggle. In homes, families carry on their daily routines, baking bread, tending gardens, teaching children, but the world outside is shifting quietly but unmistakably. In Philadelphia, a city alive with the muted hum of discussion and debate, representatives from the colonies gather in the cool light of early summer. They walk along cobblestone streets, exchanging thoughts in soft voices. In candlelit rooms, Committees meet to deliberate, to argue, and to dream of a world shaped not by distant kings, but by the choices of the people who live there. Among these leaders is Thomas Jefferson, a young man with careful hands and a thoughtful mind. He dips a quill into ink, letting it hover above parchment, unsure at first where the words might fall. But slowly, deliberately, he begins to write. He writes of natural rights, of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He writes of government as a servant of the people, not a master. Each stroke of the quill is deliberate, measured, imbued with the weight of responsibility. Other delegates read and reflect, their expressions serious, their voices low and considered. There are moments of hesitation, of debate, of quiet disagreement. But always there is respect. Each man understands the gravity of the task. They're not merely writing words on paper. They're shaping the ideas that may define a nation. The days and nights pass in this thoughtful rhythm. Parchment accumulates on desks. Letters travel between towns, and ideas are refined with care. Every phrase is measured, every sentence deliberate. They know that these words, once shared with the world, carry consequences far beyond the walls of their meeting rooms. Finally, the day arrives when the Declaration of Independence is presented. The words are read aloud, echoing softly through the hall, reaching every attentive ear. They speak of freedom, of unity, and of the courage to stand for principles even when the path ahead is uncertain. There's a quiet weight in the room, a shared recognition that history itself is being written in these moments. Outside, the city continues its rhythm. Bells toll softly, children play, merchants conduct their trades. The ordinary and the extraordinary coexist, intertwined. In kitchens and homes across the colonies, people listen as the words spread, absorbing their meaning slowly, letting them sink into hearts and minds. The Declaration is more than a document. It is a symbol, a promise, and a guide. It speaks to courage, to responsibility, and to the quiet power of conviction. It reminds the colonies that even in uncertainty, even in fear, the deliberate choices of thoughtful, principled people can shape the course of history. And so, the colonies stand at the threshold of a new chapter. The words on the parchment are only the beginning. The courage of ordinary people, the quiet resilience of communities, and the careful planning of leaders all converge to create a vision of a future defined not by oppression, but by the freedom to choose, to speak, and to act. As night falls over Philadelphia, the city glows with the soft light of lanterns. People reflect on what has been done, on what is possible, and on the journey still ahead. The Declaration of Independence marks a turning point, not with the clash of battle, but with the quiet strength of ideas, the careful deliberation of leaders, and the courage of a people ready to embrace a new dawn. The colonies, now united by words on parchment, face a reality far more difficult than ideas or speeches. The Revolutionary War has begun, and life takes on a new rhythm, one of courage, endurance, and quiet sacrifice. In the early morning, mist rises from fields and forests, softening the outlines of trees and fences. Militiamen move carefully through the shadows, their muskets slung across shoulders, eyes alert for any sign of danger. They are ordinary men, farmers, shopkeepers, carpenters, yet now they are soldiers, carrying the weight of a fledgling nation on their shoulders. Families wake in small houses, hearing the distant sounds of cannon fire or the muffled march of boots on hard-packed earth. Mothers hold their children close, whispering reassurances they can barely believe themselves. Fathers kiss foreheads with quiet determination, knowing that the day may bring danger, loss, or heartbreak. Every home is touched by the war, even if its occupants remain safely behind closed doors. Battles occur in fields and forests, in towns and river crossings. They are brief yet intense, leaving behind traces of courage and sorrow. Soldiers move with careful discipline, yet fear is never far. Every decision matters: when to advance, when to hold, when to retreat. Even the smallest actions can shape the outcome, the survival of comrades, or the protection of a village. Letters continue to travel between homes and battlefronts. Words of love, concern, and encouragement cross forests, rivers, and rough roads. Children ask questions they do not fully understand, and elders offer wisdom shaped by experience. These letters, often written in candlelight, become lifelines, connecting families to those who face danger on a daily basis. Winter brings its own challenges. Soldiers huddle together for warmth in makeshift camps. Frost bites fingers and toes, and hunger gnaws quietly at the edges of courage. Yet even in the coldest nights, determination burns steadily. Songs are sung softly to keep spirits alive. Stories are shared to remind everyone of home, and quiet acts of kindness sustain the weary hearts of men far from the comfort of their families. Throughout these years, sacrifices pile quietly, one upon another. Lives are changed forever. Farms fall silent when fathers and sons march off. Children grow up quickly, absorbing lessons of resilience and bravery they never asked to learn. Mothers tend gardens and homes, sustaining life while the world beyond their fences rages with conflict. Every small act of endurance becomes a part of the story, a piece of the foundation on which independence is built. Yet amid struggle, moments of hope shine through. Victories, small and large, bring smiles and relief. Letters arrive from distant friends, sharing news of triumphs or reinforcements. Communities gather to celebrate quietly, knowing that these fleeting joys are precious, fragile sparks of light in long, dark nights. Through it all, the colonies are transformed. The people learn the depth of their courage, the breadth of their resilience, and the quiet power of unity. They discover that sacrifice is not only hardship, it is love for family, faith in neighbors, and belief in a vision of freedom that is worth enduring every trial. And so, the struggle continues, not as a story of chaos, but as a narrative of endurance. Each morning brings work, watchfulness, and hope. Each night carries reflection, remembrance, and dreams of a future where freedom might flourish. The revolution is not only a series of battles. It is a journey of the human heart, where courage and sacrifice intertwine to shape the destiny of a nation yet to come. The years of struggle have carried the colonies through hardship, sacrifice, and courage. Now at last the war draws to a close. The fields and forests, once echoing with the sounds of musket fire and marching boots, begin to feel quieter. Birds return to the trees, rivers flow undisturbed, and the familiar rhythm of daily life slowly resumes. In towns and villages, families reunite with both joy and relief. Fathers embrace children they have not seen grow. Mothers find husbands returned from long journeys, and neighbors share quiet smiles of recognition. Yet even in these celebrations, there is reflection, remembering those who cannot return, honoring the sacrifices made, and acknowledging the courage that carried them through years of uncertainty. Far from home, diplomats gather in grand halls to formalize what hearts already know. The colonies are free. The Treaty of Paris, signed in 1783, confirms the birth of a new nation. Words on parchment, carefully negotiated, echo the ideas that were whispered in homes, debated in taverns, and written in thoughtful letters. The colonies are no longer subjects of a distant king. They're independent, sovereign, and poised to create a future of their choosing. In the streets, people move with cautious optimism. Children play with newfound freedom, chasing through fields and alleys without fear of distant authority. Markets bustle again with activity, the scent of fresh bread mingling with the earthy aroma of the land. Life continues, but now it carries the weight and promise of possibility, shaped by the courage of ordinary people who dared to dream. Leaders reflect on the journey that brought them here. Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and countless others, men and women whose names may not all be remembered, understand that victory was not just won by armies, but by the steadfast belief in principles, the quiet endurance of communities, and the careful choices made day by day. Even as peace settles over the land, the lessons of struggle linger. Families share stories of bravery, communities preserve memories of sacrifice, and a nation begins to learn what it means to govern itself. Freedom is not merely a word. It is a practice, a responsibility, and a promise to future generations. The first dawn of this new nation rises slowly over the horizon. Light spills over fields and forests, reflecting softly on rivers and rooftops. It is a dawn of hope, tempered by the memories of the past, yet bright with the potential of what is to come. The colonies are no longer just scattered settlements. They are a people united by courage, bound by shared experience, and guided by the enduring dream of freedom. And so, as night gently falls, the story of the American Revolution settles into quiet reflection. The battles, the sacrifices, the letters, the victories, they all become part of the enduring heartbeat of a nation. The ordinary acts of courage, the thoughtful decisions of leaders, and the resilience of communities have transformed the world. In the soft glow of lanterns, in the quiet of homes, and in the whispers of the wind through the trees, history rests, peaceful, remembered, and ready to inspire the generations yet to come. The dawn has come. The struggle is over. And the story, like sleep itself, brings both closure and the promise of a new beginning. Long after the final cannons have fallen silent and the fields have returned to quiet, the story of the American Revolution continues to live in hearts and homes. The battles, the sacrifices, and the victories are no longer daily realities. They have become memories, lessons, and guiding lights for generations to come. In small towns and bustling cities, people speak softly of courage, of ordinary men and women who did extraordinary things. They tell stories by firesides, passing down the tales of those who once walked the fields, marched through forests, and held steadfast in the face of uncertainty. Children listen with wide eyes, imagining the bravery of those who came before them, and in their imaginations, the past becomes vivid and alive. Scholars and storytellers write carefully, preserving the words of leaders, the letters of soldiers, and the reflections of ordinary citizens. Each word is a thread, weaving together a tapestry of memory that honors both triumph and struggle. In quiet moments, one can almost hear the rustle of parchment, the soft scratching of quills, and the whispers of hope carried through the ages. The land itself remembers. Fields that once bore the weight of marching boots now bloom with crops. Rivers that once carried messages of war now shimmer with sunlight and play. The forests, once echoing with distant cannon fire, swayed gently in the wind, their leaves carrying whispers of perseverance and unity. The legacy of the Revolution is not only in battles won or treaties signed. It is in the courage to believe in principles greater than oneself. It is in the quiet determination of families, the careful deliberation of leaders, and the resilience of communities. It is in the understanding that freedom is fragile, yet possible, and that history is shaped by the choices of ordinary people. As night falls and lanterns glow softly in homes across the new nation, there is a gentle sense of continuity. The past is honored, the present is lived with care, and the future carries promise. The story of the Revolution reminds all who listen that even in times of uncertainty, courage, hope, and determination can light the way forward. And so, as you drift into sleep, imagine the voices of history whispering softly through time. The farmers, the soldiers, the leaders, and the families. Their stories, filled with perseverance and quiet bravery, become a lullaby for the ages, teaching that even the smallest actions can ripple across time, shaping the world in ways both seen and unseen. The revolution has ended, but its lessons remain. And in the calm of the night, under the soft glow of the moon, you can rest knowing that the courage of yesterday continues to inspire tomorrow. As the night settles and the last echoes of history fade into quiet, we pause to reflect on the journey we have shared. The American Revolution was not merely a story of battles and treaties, but a story of people, ordinary, thoughtful, and courageous, who faced uncertainty with determination and hope. We remember the farmers who picked up muskets, the mothers who tended homes and children, the leaders who debated long into the night, and the soldiers who endured frost, hunger, and fear. Each one played a role, small or large, in shaping a vision of freedom that was greater than themselves. This story reminds us that courage is not always loud. It is often quiet, persistent, and patient. It is found in daily acts of care, in standing for principles, and in believing that change is possible, even when the path ahead is uncertain. The revolution also teaches us about sacrifice. True freedom, it seems, is earned not by words alone, but by enduring hardship, making difficult choices, and supporting one another through trials. And yet, through every struggle, hope never disappeared. It glimmered in letters, in shared stories, and in the vision of a better future. As we rest now, in the gentle calm of night, we carry forward the lessons of this history. That ordinary people can shape extraordinary events, that resilience and unity matter more than strength alone, and that every generation has the power to make a difference, quietly but profoundly. Let these reflections settle gently in your mind, like the soft glow of moonlight over a quiet field. The past reminds us that courage and hope endure. And as you drift into sleep, remember, the story of yesterday whispers to today, and the choices we make can ripple softly into the future, leaving the world a little braver, a little freer, and full of possibility.